my love for making up stories, my love for writing got combined in this new venture of writing fiction. I like the beginning and the end. I'm not sure which one I like the best, but I certainly don't like the middle.
The Eat, Sleep, Write podcast is brought to you
by a generous grant from the Built on Dreams Media Network,
with additional funding by a grant from the Sims Media Network,
and from listeners like you.
Stand by, please. Rolling on 6. On 6.
Welcome to episode 30. If you've enjoyed the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast or enjoyed your own success story with writing, I'd like to hear from you as well. Tell me a little about yourself and your story, and I will get back to you about joining me for a podcast on your writing adventures. I would so appreciate you taking just a few minutes of your time, leaving me a testimonial about how you enjoyed the podcast and what you may have learned from them. Please share your enthusiasm for the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. I'm actually using the comments for a few different purposes. One, to share with potential authors to get more podcast interviews, and I share the testimonials on the site as well. Thank you so much in advance if you leave me a little message. I truly appreciate it. Write to me at comments@eatsleepwrite.net. Deborah Plummer Bussey, welcome to the Eat, Sleep, Write podcast. It's great to have you with me today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
With such a successful career as an academic, why did you start writing the fictional Sister Nun mystery series?
I began to write the fiction because it was really cathartic, meaning as an academic, as you probably know, you write for journals and for academic audiences, which tend to be a little bit more rigorous, and everything that you put on paper has to be cited. That can be a very time-consuming and also not as fun a process. Writing fiction is fun because you can make stuff up.
You were inspired by your own experiences as a psychologist and former nun to create the character of Kathy Carpenter. How is she like you, and how does she differ through fiction?
Kathy has the same fascination with human behavior that I have, wondering about what makes people tick. So she's a good psychologist. We also share the same values. We have a strong connection to family. We have a steadfast faith, love people, a deep appreciation for the value of diversity. But at the same time, we're very different. Kathy is a little bit more neurotic, I would say, in the sense that she has a lot of self-doubt. I don't have as much self-doubt, and it's only because I'm older than Kathy in the book. Kathy is also a lot more naive. She is a very staunch Catholic. I'm a little bit more rebellious than Kathy would be.
Is it hard for you to write a character such as Kathy Carpenter without putting too much of yourself into the character?
That's a very good question, because I'm very much aware that Kathy has a voice that comes from inside of me. At the same time, when situations happen in the book, Kathy has a response. Sometimes they're very different than what I would have. And that's good because she's coming to life in the pages in a way that's just not me recording myself.
You go from being an academic to writing fiction. When you first sat down in front of a blank page, were you scared? I mean, was it a difficult challenge for you to go from academia to fiction?
It really was. A friend of mine who's an attorney encouraged me to write fiction. I know I wanted to write. I wanted to continue to write because I liked the process of writing and communicating through words, especially having it published and sent out and having conversations. But at the same time, I was very nervous about putting things on paper that weren't real and that couldn't be documented. I couldn't find a citation for. It really was very much of a switch in my thinking and also in how I was perceiving other people would evaluate me.
I recently interviewed a true crime author, and he stated unequivocally that if he couldn't corroborate the story he was told, it would not get in the book.
that is really academic writing. The beauty and the catharsis was to be able to write something and say, that's not true, and then say, hey, it doesn't have to be true. It's fiction.
Your protagonist, Kathy Carpenter, her sister, is she based on somebody in particular?
Tina is inspired by my sister, Lisa. Lisa is very much the personality of Tina in the book. My sister, Lisa, whose designer name is Simona Lisa, is actually an interior designer. Many of her clients are rap artists. Similar to Tina in the book, she does live in Atlanta, and Atlanta has its own personality. So the city in the book, Atlanta as Cleveland, both have their own personalities.
Although your books are stimulating mysteries, you delve into deeper themes about the complexities of life, especially in a diverse world. What are you ultimately trying to say through your writing? Is your fiction a backup to your regular commentary, such as the Huffington Post and other news outlets?
I do embrace diversity. It comes out in the writing, particularly with the characters Kathy and Tina. I believe if anyone really is fully engaged with life, you're going to encounter diversity. Then by extension, its many challenges and benefits. The Sister Nun stories actually reflect the challenges that most people would encounter if they are trying to navigate our increasingly multicultural society.
Academic background, you're writing fiction, you go into the psychosis of your protagonist. Is it difficult for you to dig down really deep and bring that psychosis out in words, in effect becoming the character that you're writing about?
Actually, that is the easier part for me because I'm an academic, but I'm also a clinical psychologist. So as a practicing psychologist, I'm constantly looking at behavior and motivations and the psychological underpinnings for why people are doing what they're doing, and it tends to come out in the book. In fact, I think a little more than people are used to when they read a mystery. It has a lot more backstory, a lot more motivations about why people are doing the things they do, and more character development than probably is in most mystery.
Authors often get pigeonholed into the genre they write. Would it be fair to characterize your work as a psychological thriller since you bring so much of that from your academic background?
That's also a very good question because one of the reviewers did say that they believed I had broken open a new genre of mystery with psychosocial themes. I don't think my stories are thrillers in the sense of what's happening out there situationally in the environment, but more about what's happening inside individuals and their tension between should I do this or should I not do this, and the moral dilemmas. If I have a family member who I know is probably doing something that is very serious or could have been involved in a crime, do I tell or do I help to protect them? Those are the themes that come up.
Who or what made you want to be a writer?
I actually never envisioned my life as a writer. I loved stories. I loved reading. When we were young, my sisters and I used to make up stories about each other and people in the neighborhood just to entertain ourselves, sit on the stoop and tell stories to each other. My love for reading, my love for hearing stories, my love for making up stories, my love for writing got combined in this new venture of writing fiction.
I'm borrowing from the author Stephen King when I ask this question. Who are you when you write?
That is a very good question. I am a very freestyle, unencumbered, stressless individual. And that is not typically me as I go through life. I'm usually always worried about evaluations or getting it right. I will say I'm not a perfectionist, but I'll definitely have a healthy pursuit of excellence. Yet when I'm writing, it allows me just to put the words on paper and draft. I often call this my 2-digit IQ activity where I can just put down what's there and just go with the flow.
Complete this sentence. The writer's inner journey is
exciting because oftentimes the writer doesn't know where they're going.
Are you a plotter?
I have to know where the book is going, in the sense I have to have a beginning, middle, end, so that I'm just not writing endlessly. I learned that from also one of the other writing books. Other than that, I'll start knowing who the characters are going to be, what the tension is going to be between them, and how it will get resolved. Other than that, all the details get worked out when I'm writing on a paper.
Well, you brought it up. Beginning, beginning, middle, or end? What do you like best?
I like the beginning and the end. I'm not sure which one I like the best, but I certainly don't like the middle.
Why?
Because it doesn't look like you're going to get to the end and you've messed up your beginning.
You're a complicated woman, but okay, never mind.
Well, often in the middle, what's happening is you're trying to put it in the direction of the known end, and it's not going there. Or there's a detail that has to be cleaned up, or that doesn't make sense if I'm going to end it this way. If I go down another path, and how I'm going to end it. That's why the middle is just muddling through.
Finish this sentence. You love to write because...
I get to make stuff up, and I get to be the freest individual I can possibly be.
What sets your book apart from other books of the same genre?
What makes The Family That Stays Together different from other mysteries is that, first of all, it has a lot more background about the characters' motivations and psychological underpinnings. The other piece that I think is even more important is that it's set in pop culture, because I believe pop culture acts as a context for characters, and it demonstrates the influence that our environment has on our thinking and behavior. Those two things, the psychosocial themes, the peppering of pop culture throughout, the fact that the cities are also personalities, Atlanta and Cleveland, and that I think you get a good glimpse of what it's like in black culture, and particularly sisterhood among black women.
What is the secret to writing a great mystery novel?
When you're writing it, you know the end, and so you can go back and kind of put small clues, not large clues, but very small clues throughout the writing, because you want your reader to also be discovering the clues as well as the solving the mystery along with you. So you're controlling the information in such a way that the clues aren't popping out, so that the reader is so aware of how it's going to end, but rather that the reader finishes the novel and then can say, and go back and trace where those clues were.
Can we expect more detective work from Kathy and Tina in the future?
Absolutely. I think both Tina and Kathy kind of landed in being detectives and sleuths, not by their own will, unintentionally. But now they're starting to sharpen their skills, and there's always going to be something that comes up in Kathy's clinical practice that she has to bring to light without breaking confidentiality, and being able to bring to light something that she can solve, a murder or an accidental death.
Deborah, tell me more about your book.
The Family That Stays Together is about two sister sleuths, Kathy and Tina, who must rally to support their family friend, the television celebrity, and becomes a suspect in the murder of her ex-fiancé. The story chronicles their attempt to show the innocence of their friend, Jessica. At the same time, Kathy finds out that one of her clients is also a suspect.
How did you come up with the title?
First of all, there's a double meaning in terms of Kathy and Tina, in terms of the family and their family friend, who is like their sister. And then there is a family in the story, the Nelsons, who each one of them actually becomes a suspect.
How about an excerpt from The Family That Stays Together?
Be happy to do that. You would have to understand that sometimes a marriage isn't about love. Wasn't that the point Beyonce made in that song? Or maybe it was Tina Turner. Yeah, it was the older one, because I remember I sang it to my first love when I broke up with him and I was in junior high school. He didn't want to know what I was saying either. Rachel sensed that I was not buying her defensive marriage spiel, especially one when she claimed an outside love interest somehow stabilized her marriage to Jamal. We were not progressing very fast in this therapeutic process. The last two sessions were used as a sanctum for actively grieving Don's death. After all, as she told me, she was practically his wife. It also didn't help that she was consistently late. Her arrival 10 minutes into the scheduled time was now a pattern.